Nichols over and over.
It's inconceivable that all 5 of these men are clinical psychopaths. Moreover, it wouldn't even be surprising if they had no history of anti-black or racist behavior. And that is exactly why implicit bias is the subject of academic study. Let me explain. Every semester, Dr. Finley, my mother, would give her students the Harvard Implicit Association Test, a test designed to identify unconscious biases held by the test taker. As you could imagine, the results were always controversial. Some of the most negative reactions to the test results would come from African American students who would say, "This test is saying I'm racist against blacks, so it's gotta be wrong because I am black and I know for a fact I'm not racist." Dr. Finley would invariably have to remind students that, 1, this is not a test to assess racism, but rather associations, preferences, and bias. And 2, the test is designed to give insight into the subconscious mind, so cognitive dissonance should be expected. Let me give you an example of how this works conceptually. An African-American woman, definitely not my wife, starts binge-watching YouTube videos about women who were brutally murdered by their boyfriends. Most of these videos feature African-American couples. In this hypothetical situation, you can imagine not my wife being shocked at test results indicating that she subconsciously associated black males with violence. Her initial reaction would understandably be denial. My loving husband is a black man, she might say. Black men are in my family, they're my friends. I have no reason to harbor negative feelings about men, especially of my own race. What my mother hoped her students would learn is that the veracity of all these statements is exactly the point. Subconscious judgments are influenced by social, psychological, and even evolutionary factors. Factors that influence behavior. Imagine that for whatever reason or reasons, the subconscious mind of an individual makes an association between black men and criminality. As a pedestrian, this individual might instinctively cross the street at the sight of a black male. As an employer, they might reflexively reject a black applicant. While these are both examples of dehumanization, there are levels to this. When a police officer, even at an unconscious level, associates a black man with criminality, the stage is set for tragedy. Police officers pride themselves in their ability to act off of instinct. But when those instincts are based on a defective psychological framework, suddenly it becomes possible to rationalize abhorrent behavior, like racial profiling, excessive use of force, the infliction of extrajudicial punishment, and even brutally beating a man to death on a public street. This is not the product of mental illness. It's not the work of devils or demons, Nazis or skinheads. It's the work of everyday people like me and you. So despite what you hear in the entertainment news or from pop culture, social critics, diversity and inclusion studies are not a woke ideology designed to social engineer white guilt. The tragedy in Memphis shows us that if we're ever going to really understand racial issues and social phenomena related to race, we have to examine the structures and substructures underlying the issue of race. We've got to understand that there are nuances to racism that aren't black and white. We've got to understand implicit bias.